Welcome to the Women of Soul Aligned Business Podcast. I'm Joe Che. I am here with Reverend Sydney Francis. She is a trauma-informed spiritual healer, educator, author, and Sydney, you are helping people transform that emotional pain into that spiritual purpose. And this is very dear to my heart. One thing I'm really excited about talking about is you have a book about lunar alchemy that I'm excited to hear about because I know when I'm working with women, there's always that encouragement to stay when you're doing your business, to stay within your cycles. Know when it's time to kind of come in and not do a lot, get that creative energy, and times to put a lot of energy out. And when we sort of go against that, it tends to create a lot of confusion, frustration. And when we can follow that lunar cycle, that flow, it brings a lot more ease. Welcome, Sydney. And maybe start out telling us about the name of your book is called Lunar Alchemy.
Yeah, it's called Activating Lunar Alchemy, and like you referenced it, it's the tagline is the mystical art of transmuting your emotional pain into spiritual abundance. And I love what you said. Actually, you're right on it. Most of my clients are women with the moon work, although I do teach men the moon work as well. But there is like an inner time and an out. There's this internal time, a balance and a rhythm between the internal and the external, right? And the moon is really a perfect rhythm for that, I think, a perfect teacher of that rhythm, because you have the new moon, which is that silent internal time, and then the full moon, which we're having tomorrow and Saturday, which is this outward, bright, energy, high energy. And so there is a rhythmical balance of going inward and outward with the moon work that I think my clients say that it's very centering, that helps them achieve balance, and it's very centering for them to do that.
Is this related to the menstruational cycles or just the lunar cycle? So is it about like the follicular and the luteal and the menstrual cycles, or is it for everyone's in the same cycle, or is it personalized to each woman in their
It's all everyone aligns to the moon in this particular practice, but I like the idea. I mean, I've been very tuned into my own. Actually, after doing this work for years, around when I was 40, my moon cycle synced up with my personal period cycle synced up with the moon cycle. So I don't know if it's because I was practicing this or some weird fluke, but I mean, there is a connection between the two. I'm going to think about that because I'm excited about that idea of attuning it to women's like hormonal flow, because that affects me pretty profoundly.
Yeah, I think you're not the only one on that one. And then when you go into that menstruation cycle in that time period, it's not the time to be doing business, making big decisions. It's
Mhm.
the time to go inward, take care of yourself, and it's
Yeah.
really interesting. I'm from New York, so it didn't matter where you were in your cycle in New York. You were just hitting the gas pedal hard no matter what, showing up to every meeting, expected to really show up the same way when in reality, that's not what's happening in the internal space. So now I'm on the opposite. I'm in Bali and, women will just cancel everything for 2 days. And it's when they go very inward and take care of themselves. And it's been interesting to see that difference between this very in flow state and this like drive hard and push hard in all businesses.
Yeah, no, that is really, and I do talk about that not so much like I say for the menstrual cycle, but with the moon cycle, I do recommend that to have those inward time. I mean, as I think both men and women need this, but we really need a balance of the inward and outward. Like you're saying, you go hard in New York City. I think American culture is all about go push, if you take a Tony Robbins course, it's all like take massive action and you're just supposed to like push until you make it happen. With the moon cycle, it's a lot about there's kind of a receptive and inward time, and then there's like an active and yang time. There's a balance between those two. I think you say not just women, I think we as humans need a balance between that internal self-reflective time to align with our soul, like at the new moon or after your period, you have that kind of like internal time. And then at the full moon, you have this more outward expression time, this high energy time. People like to go to parties, and it's a much more expressive, energetic, high energy time. So I
I would love to have you summarize those cycles and what we should be doing in each. Every new moon, we would look and actually set goals for the next month. And then at the full moon, it was kind of a check-in, etc. So I'm curious what your process is that you found that could be really helpful for people.
Okay. And this is a good process for business. I mean, it can be a personal process or I have a couple businesses, the healing one and an art business, and we use it in the art business too. So, okay. So at the new moon, yeah, like you said, I recommend what's the ancient practice was called seeding the moon, where you set out your dreams or your goals, your wishes. So that is a good time if you're looking from a business point of view to set your goals at the new moon. And is it okay if I go into a little bit of like the moon mysticism part?
It's
Okay.
your show. Let's hear it. Yeah,
All right.
I want to know what's for you.
Okay. Okay. So in the new moon, the sun and the moon line up in the sky. And so if you think of the sun as like your higher self and say the moon is your emotional self or your subconscious self, on the new moon, those two come together. And so you're going inward at the new moon to get that alignment because they're in alignment. Like the sun, moon, and the earth, we're on the earth. They're all in alignment on the new moon. And then as we move as the moon waxes or gets bigger, it goes to the first quarter. I just practice the four main phases of the moon. I mean, you can go deeper into it, but on the first quarter, you'll see if you go out at sunset on the first quarter, you'll see that the moon is above head, and you see the waxing half moon. You'll see the little half moon at night, and that in astrology is a square, but it's an active energy. So that this is the time in the moon cycle, one of the times where you take the action, where you take the supportive action. So you have a quiet time and then you have an active time. And I recommend in that first quarter, around the first quarter, maybe that week, to really meditate on what actions are supporting the goals or seeds that you planted in the new moon. So rather than just acting crazy or just taking action that's not aligned, right? You want to take aligned action and supportive action towards what you're actually trying to create. So that might mean, I don't know, it could mean going to Bali or getting some rest or going on a retreat. It's not always just the hard work aspects of, sometimes we need something, we're called to do something that's different than that our intuition's calling us. That's not the hard work. And then the full moon. Okay, on the full moon, the sun's at sunset, you'll see the sun setting in the west and the moon's rising in the east. And that's called an opposition in astrology. So you probably feel that energy right now. It's like really high energy. It's summer in the US here and the energy's really high. The moon's getting full tomorrow and they're in an opposition. And I think of this time as when we do self-reflection because the moon, one of the aspects of the moon is that it's a mirror. It has a mirroring function of us and it mirrors the sun's light and it actually mirrors the earth's light back to us. And so at the full moon, we have a high level of energy, but I like to use that energy to look at what's really going on. So on the full moon, I kind of go back to my self-reflection point and I go back and look at my seeds from the seeds or goals. And I think what's working, what isn't working. I try to dig a little deeper and have insights about, maybe this is the time you evaluate your results. Like, what are the results in your business and what's really going on? And where are the blocks or where are the obstacles and where is it flowing really easily? So that's a great time to do that kind of evaluation of the results or self-evaluation. And then the moon keeps moving. It starts to wane or get smaller until the last quarter. About a week later, it goes to the last quarter. And that you'll see the last quarter in the morning. So if you get up at sunrise and you look up, the moon will be above your head at sunrise on the last quarter. And for the last quarter, I recommend doing a releasing ritual. I mean, I actually learned a business technique from Dean Graziosi, which is making a not to-do list. So okay, the waning moon is optimal for letting go, right? Because the moon is receding and getting smaller, sort of like women, we have our period, the whatever we release, the shed the lining or whatever. So this is an optimal time, in my opinion, for releasing rituals. On a business from a business standpoint, I would actually think about, like, go back to what you learned at the full moon, what's working, what isn't working, and then make the adjustments or make the changes at the last quarter that you need to support where you really want to go with your business. So the not to do list includes like things that you can eliminate, delegate, or automate. So you make a list of those things and then you take all those tasks off your plate, kind of to free up your creative energy for whatever else that's actually really moving you forward. So
Amazing. So let me summarize that. So what I'm hearing is, correct me if I'm wrong, is new moon, make sort of your goals, your lists, things of the sort. Quarter moon, kind of check in with all of those and make sure that you're not doing too much or pushing too hard. Full moon, we're doing what here?
okay,
What are we
that's
doing
the
in full?
mirror one. That's a good time to evaluate the results of what you're doing,
Evaluate.
to
Got
do
it.
this evaluation in your business. Yeah, look at your results.
Got it. And then 3 quarters in the waning cycle, we're actually looking what we can let go of, what we can delegate, what we can not do. And it's really an evaluation of the not to do list, which I really love this because I found for even for myself, I tend to, get caught up in all the little things and micromanaging when in reality the real way to expand and grow and make that life of ease and flow is to get people to do the things that are outside of your zone of genius. And as I'm
Totally.
working with women building their business, this is a constant thing I'm looking at is like, what do you love to do? What are you really good at? And what do you hate to do? And the things that you hate to do are like what some people call monkey work, is we just get them offloaded on virtual assistants, hiring people, getting a right hand that's really good that can do all those things. Because I mean, the reality is when we're out of our zone of genius, we're spinning our wheels and we're spending 80% of our time on the shit that we do not like to do and we're not that good at. So it's taking us longer anyway. So I love this in this third cycle that we're looking at the not to do list. So we have our to do list in the beginning, then our not to do list, and then that cycle repeats. And I think, Sydney, regardless of someone's thoughts or philosophies on astrology, this is just a really good process for anyone to consistently keep coming back, evaluating, reevaluating, because for me, when we get into alignment, it's that North Star, and we're always moving towards that sole purpose in our alignment. And as we move towards it, we start to veer or we need to make changes. And if we're not constantly checking back into ourselves, we can get really far off. And that's happened to me multiple times. I've done things outside of my opportunity parameters and I'm doing a business. I'm like, why am I have a brick and mortar visa company working with people that are horrible communicators and like this is not even good money. Like, what am I doing? And it's like always coming back to this process of evaluating, reevaluating. I have a bunch of free processes on this too on my website if people are interested. And, if we're not constantly aligning with each other and then like you said, going back and clearing out all that stuff. And this process is in your books.
Yes, yes, it is in my book. I mean, it's written more for maybe mystical audience than a business audience, but the process is in there and kind of it's a practical. I wrote it as a practical tool because I use it. I use it for both my businesses. I use it with my husband. Like you said, we want if being soul aligned is your goal, this is a very soulful process because you're really looking at what is it that at the beginning, the new moon, you're really looking at what do you want to create? What's your dream or what's your you can write it in terms of goals or you can write it in terms of dreams. But then throughout the process, you're coming back and aligning to it, right? You align to it in the first quarter by taking the supportive actions. You align to it again in the full moon when you're evaluating what's really going on and why is your dream. What you look at in the full moon is like what's the discrepancy between what you say you want to build and what really is. And then in the last quarter, that's like I said, when you do the releasing and make the adjustments. So they are constantly refining and moving towards greater and greater soul alignment, if you will. And you grow, you
Sydney,
grow in this process. What I see is that every cycle I've like grown and changed. So I'm constantly like updating it, and it's getting lighter and brighter and more abundant as time goes on.
yeah, it's constantly that soul purpose is constantly something that we need to keep aligning to. And and sometimes it shifts, or sometimes we hone it, and we're in a kind of a broader purpose lane. In the beginning, we're spinning in circles, and then after a while, we get a direction, and then over time, we laser beam focus into it. And what's interesting for me in this work, and I've created a process called Icky Girl, which is similar. It's kind of like a more defined process of the Icky guy, that kind of soul purpose. And what I've noticed over the years, and everyone I work with, it's like basically we're just answering a lot of questions and creating parameters of what we want for our life, and trying to, how do we make money doing what we actually really care about. And what I find really fascinating is when we get people into that and it works every time, they're always serving someone. They're always making this world better, and they're making money. And it's like I've struggled with that over the years. I had some things that made me a lot of money, getting paid $2,400 an hour, working with these CEOs of major companies in New York. But I had this like limiting belief that I couldn't do what I really cared about, which is
Mm.
helping amplify voices of women and building businesses that are meaningful. I didn't feel like I could put them together, and that was my limiting belief. And I had to get over that before I could put them together. And I know others have had the same sort of challenges. I'm curious, what have your challenges been in building these businesses that you've created? I mean, how many years have you been creating these businesses?
Well, I've had a couple throughout my life. I've definitely been on a cycle. I had some businesses when I was in my 20s, and that I had a brick and mortar business that I ended up closing to go back to graduate school. The current business, let's see, I started one in 2019, and then that's the art business that I have with my husband, and the spiritual one. I kind of decided I had something like you where I was like had a deep doubt that I could do the spiritual work and make it work, financially. And so that one's been growing really since the pandemic. Like I had a job and then the art business, and I quit to do the art business in the pandemic. I quit like 2 weeks before the shutdown, and then everything closed. So I was like, okay, now I have no job. I have no bed. Like, so after going through the year, I was like, well, I might as well do my passion project then now, because I'm free. I don't have anything else to do except give what I want to give. So that was really when I started this business. And I would say overcoming, and I've used this moon process for this, I had some obstacles about receiving money for spiritual work. I mean, it's kind of an ongoing one,
A
because
lot.
yeah, and I was ordained as a reverend, and I think maybe from a more Piscean era belief, there's this idea that we're supposed to give spiritually, maybe in a more martyr way, and that we're not supposed to get paid for that work. And so I've definitely had some struggles overcoming that. I'm getting better with it. I think that's a hard one because, you know, like spiritual work is, I don't know why it's different than other work, but it's got kind of this maybe cultural energy of being different. So, but then on the other hand, spirituality, so I love the fact that you do a podcast for soul aligned business, because this is something that our world really needs, is soul aligned business. And we need to be able to take care of ourselves and make the money and be prosperous and abundant so that we can serve for ourselves, but also so we can serve more people, so that we can actually make the impact. So that's been a transformative, that's been I would say a challenge, but also something that I'm hoping to help more people with, because I work with a lot of healers in the program that I got ordained from the Healing Light Center Church. A lot of the healers really struggle to break that barrier. Most of them have full-time jobs and they want to give their spiritual gifts, but they're torn between, like, how do you give this work and how do you get paid for this? There's a internal struggle there that happens. So I hope to be
Yeah,
more
I
of
hear
a
that.
proponent of getting paid for the soul aligned work.
This is why I developed this Ikigo process is you plug everything in and all those passions and then shows you and then
Oh,
I'm neurodivergent. My brain is very good at creating processes and business and finding ways to make money at anything basically.
oh, cool.
And so I help people do that. And that's my joy and passion because I remember there's a woman and she's teaching language, a very well-known language teacher, and she's like, when we did this process with her, she's like, I need to be healing people energetically through Reiki and breath work, and that came out, and we made a plan for her, and now she's doing great, and she's so much happier, and because there was this limiting belief that so many of us have, and I don't know, my background came from Christianity. There's very much, like you said, there's a nobility in being a martyr. It's like the more you can give and suffer, the better it is. And my suggestion for people is you need to believe that if you are not financially sustainable in your gifts and your passions, then you burn out, you become frustrated, and you actually can't help people. And it doesn't mean it's not an energy of taking as much money as you can and that greediness. It's just an energy of like, I deserve to be supported in doing this thing that I'm supposed to do.
Yeah. It needs to be a win-win. And I think the win for the client is that they receive your service. And the win for you is that you get paid for your time. And otherwise, you're right. I have been there in the burnout and then you're like, I can't go on. And then you're not able to give anything at all. And so that's a shame. Yeah.
That's it. Sydney, the best way for people to reach out to you if they're resonating with your work, if they want to find your book, is it Soul Gardener?
Yes. Soulgardener.me. That is my website. Thank you.
If you know anyone that needs help and is listening and wants to uncover your soul purpose and make money at it or build that business, I have programs on that for anyone listening. If you feel like you want to reach out to myself or Sydney, I know, personally answer all my messages, although it takes me a few minutes. And I just want to say, Sydney, thank you so much for being on the show and for being an inspiration and for sharing vulnerably about how it took some time to get that. And because you're not the only one that is going through that process of these limiting beliefs and getting paid for what you really love to do. If you're listening, just remember you deserve, the world needs you to make money at what you're really good at because you're going to be serving others. So thank you so much, Sydney, for
Thank you.
joining. Have a great day. Take care.
It was fantastic.